Well,
I'm not
it wasn't that. It's just that when you young and I'm just watching the bus, and not realizing that they had a little thing in the dressing room where they already was seeing him, So no matter about
yeah,
watching the
it
bus,
ain't matter that
you know,
you hit.
and so I think it was just that time frame, as a young kid, to be able to experience, incarceration, and I couldn't even remember that until some later down the line when they did a PSI when they said, he been to jail when he was 8 years old, and I didn't even remember that from that time frame.
Damn, you really ain't remember?
I really didn't remember.
Wow. Damn. Was you locked up like? Did you get like right out, or did you have to?
So my aunt came, got us, like his mother, like who was raising us at the time. My cousin's mama came get us. I think he went to the youth study, and they brought me on Tulane and Broad. They used to have like the like the headquarters thing. So I stood there, and she came there and got me, and then I think my cousin, since he was older than me, he had to go to the youth study and go through the system and all
Damn. So 8 years old, yeah, that's crazy. Nah, so was that like a commonality for you? Like I'm asking, not for people who may not understand, growing up in that environment, was that a commonality for somebody to be 8 years old going to jail? Or
that. Not necessarily. I think that growing up in public housing or just growing up in poverty in general, right? You you subjective of doing things in your community um, that normal society probably wouldn't seem as deem as right, right? But when you're in that type of environment growing up, whatever you're doing to survive is right. And so it wasn't a lot of people, but I think most of the people who were at that age that probably was getting incarcerated, their parents probably was on drugs.
same situation?
They probably, yeah, the same situation. So people just surviving. You know.
Man, that's wild, man. 8 years old. I can't. What was I like? 8 years old. I think I was playing hide and seek. I ran my brother to the street. He was holding on the back of my bike. He had skates on. He told me don't go around the corner fast. He was going up broad in the traffic by the time I swung that corner at 8. I'm just thinking what I was doing at 8. Man. So high school. What high school you went to?
So I started off at Joan Mac. I wound up getting kicked out of Joan Mac. And actually, when I got kicked out of Joan Mac, I got arrested for a gun. Uh, got arrested for a gun. Got sent to the youth study. Stood in the youth study for almost probably about a year or so. And so I had the two options, right? I think they was trying to give me juvenile life, or I had the option to go to a place called Boys Town in Omaha, Nebraska. I chose the latter, and wound up going to a place called Boys Town in 1994. I stood there from 1994 to 97 until I graduated from high school in Omaha, Nebraska.
That's a plot twist. Did you go back? You went back to New Orleans after?
Yeah, so I came back to New Orleans in 1997. When I graduated from high school in Omaha, I had scholarship offers to Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, Grambling, and various other schools. I chose Grambling, but at that time, I wound up coming to.
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
You can't just skim over. I had a scholarship to. I offered to Cornell like that. Some people don't understand that level of education. So
Right.
where you just started from, you went from 8 years old jail, boom,
Right.
high school.
But well, if I go, I guess I have to go back a little bit. So even though I was had a troubled childhood growing up, I was always on the honor roll my whole entire life. And it's funny though, because even if before I jumped to the Boys Town at Phillip or at Nelson, I was always on the honor roll. I remember some of my classmates, one of my dear friend who is Tidy's sister, Raina Johnson. We was always on the honor roll. Me, Raina, um, Lashandra Radcliffe, Carl Fauché, Shona Smith. It was always, like even from like Nelson Elementary to Phillip Junior High. So I've always been on the honor roll my whole entire life. So um, education has always come easy to me. I've always been smart, right? I just was using my smartness in the wrong way because I didn't have no guidance at that young age, you know, in my life. And to that, I got that opportunity to go, you know, to Boys Town. And I think that, you know, being in Boys Town allowed me to really hone my education, right? I learned social skills that I didn't know. I didn't know how to accept feedback. I didn't know how to accept constructive criticism. And even when I made it to Boys Town, I was angry, right? I was like, I was just so angry and was dealing with so much trauma at that age where, you know, I was taking out the anger, but didn't realize, hindsight is 2020, didn't realize that me going through and getting that experience was life changing for me, right? But as a 14-year-old, how would I know that this is going to change my life? I didn't know that. And so being there, I got involved. I played sports. I played sports even when I was in New Orleans, but getting there, I played sports and was able to play sports at a high level. So when I say I got scholarship offer for education and academic. And so, you know, that's what I was saying, like Cornell, you know, Cornell University and Grambling and various other schools. I chose Grambling, a HBCU, just because one of my best friends who I met, who was from Chicago in Boys Town, he was like, "Man, I'm going to Grambling. We're gonna go play for Eddie Robb," and I chose to go to Grambling.
What position you play?
I played cornerback.
Any notable opponents you went against?
So I played against Amon Green. Amon Green was a senior at that time. I was a sophomore. I played against Eric Crouch, who also went to the University of Nebraska, and then I think he went on to the NFL. Trying to see who else. It was a lot of other people. I actually played at somebody who grew up in the same project with me, a guy named Stubby. He wound up coming to Boys Town. We all played football together. I played football and also ran track, you know, as well.
So football. So it may sound crazy what I'm about to say, but actually catching a gun charge pretty much saved your life, in a sense.
In a sense, right? And I think that I always feel like everything that happened was God's will, right? And so nothing don't happen by happenstance. I'm a very spiritual. I'm not a religious person, but I'm very, very spiritual. And I agree. I think yes, it saved my life because it gave me a different perspective. I always felt like, because most of the people in my family went to prison. Some of my cousins, you know, they went and got life sentences at 18 years old. You know, I had 3 cousins in Angola at the same time with an uncle. You know, and so my family was always smart, but I think that not having that guidance and growing up in poverty, that people just become, you know, the environment that they grew up in.
In real life, bro.
Yeah, that's. So you said 3 cousins?
3 cousins and an uncle.
At the same time.
Are they still there? Are they home?
God is amazing. All 3 of my cousins are home, and my uncle, you know, he's home, but he's deceased now.
Okay. Rest in peace to your uncle.
He made it out.
That's a powerful story.